This live performance may have adult or explicit language. Be aware.
Welcome to this live edition of the Comical Heathen. This is your host, Dr. Jerry Jaffe. I've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now. It's part of a book I'm writing on satire. And as I've started doing the live shows that I've been doing in Cleveland and Columbus and so on, one of the things I've been doing is doing a question and answer period. And so I thought I would bring some of that to the podcast. To help me do that, I have a co-host, my very good friend, actor and comedian, Gaz Simmons.
Hello, how are we doing? Thanks for inviting me in here. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, it's weird times. Obviously, we're in quarantine. I have not left my house for the last 4 days, so pretty much you can get me to do anything at this point.
It was cheap to book you. I noticed that. It was cheap to book you.
Yeah. Hey, Gaz, what time you can come in? I don't know, from now till about any time after this. I'll be there.
Today is March 22nd. We're basically a week into the full-scale coronavirus semi-lockdown.
Yeah.
For comedians who are lowest on the totem pole, it's a hard situation.
Yeah, ours is like one of the first jobs they cut, pretty much. They're like, let's start with comedians. They're not worth anything. Let's just get rid of their job immediately.
And about every other comedian I know has made the joke, I don't draw 10 people anyway, so I should be able to
you should be able to do just fine.
I do know some full-on professional comedians have lost many gigs, thousands of dollars. Well, in this time of the coronavirus, of social distancing, everybody should listen to more podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, this is the next best thing until they make this illegal. But all my other jobs have fell through, whether it's a stand-up comedian or I have like 2 other side jobs, and both of those are also, they're actually not even comedians, the side job. The other 2 are actual real jobs.
Right.
And those, they've said I can't do that anymore. So now I'm, this is all I got left is podcasts. This is what we're doing.
Yep. There is a donate button on the homepage of my Gold Star Classroom podcast.
Oh.
If anybody wants to make a donation.
So it'll be on this particular link right here if you're watching it.
If you're listening right now, it's not on the link you're listening to.
No.
But it's online somewhere.
So what we're doing is they have the opportunity to give us money, but what we're doing for them is making it more difficult.
Oh, much more difficult.
Yeah, because we could have just had a link right on here saying, hey, donate to these 2 guys. Now, if they would like to do it, the first they'd have to say, sure, I'd like to donate. And then if they'd like to do, they have to go through
figure
a couple
out how
hoops.
to do it.
Right. Oh, okay.
Would you like to hear something equally ridiculous?
Yeah. Can it be more ridiculous than that?
You can make a donation to this podcast during a live stream directly through our hosting platform, which is Podbean.
Okay.
Which I'm a big fan of Podbean.
That's what we're using today? That's our platform?
Our platform is Podbean. You can make donations to podcasts doing live streams directly through Podbean. So a listener could make a donation, but they have to be like a member of Podbean because you got to have like Podbean bucks.
Oh.
So you can't just like donate like money directly.
Gotcha.
You have to like obtain these Podbean virtual currency.
Well, I guess anything we could do to make it more difficult for the listener.
Of course.
Yeah. That sounds excellent.
You could also swim to China, get some Chinese money, swim back, and then throw it in my general direction.
Yeah, that sounds simple.
The wind will do the rest.
All right.
So in the live shows, we have a question and answer period, and people write down questions.
Gotcha.
And I have a host to the live shows.
So this is the Comical Heathen you're talking about?
Comical Heathen live on tour.
Okay.
Of which we've done 3 shows. And now the next 2 have been canceled because of the coronavirus.
Right.
Which I support. We have to be health conscious.
We support the coronavirus or the quarantine of the court.
The social distancing. You should support any local businesses that are still open. Restaurants that have takeout.
Yeah.
My local comedy show, which Gaz has appeared on numerous times over the years, Eastside Comedy at Toth's Place. We love Mike Toth and Toth's Place and Toth 2. And if they do any food service, you should try to support them. Toast 2 especially is having limited takeout food service. So.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. They got good wings there. I've had them.
Yes.
Hot dogs. Excellent. Very giant.
If you're in the Mentor area, watch out for any other local businesses or restaurants. So Gaz is going to be asking me these questions, and then we'll just talk about whatever comes up as we go through them.
So anyway, I'm not sure if people know, when they're listening to this, do they know the premise of the Comical Heathen?
That is a great question. As of now, the average episode of the other podcasts get approximately 15 listens.
Okay.
So I'm assuming there could be up to 15 people.
15, or if they're combination, maybe 30.
Yes. So there's between 1 and 30 people besides ourselves.
That's not a lot.
So the Comical Heathen, it started as a book I'm writing, and I'm working on that book.
Gotcha.
But while I started working on this book...
Like a classic artist, you've probably been working on this book for what, 6 years?
Yes, that's actually a good estimate. 6 years.
All right, so you're really diligent. Got it.
You got that right. Yes. As soon as I finish Luigi's Mansion 3, I'll be taking on the next chapter.
Excellent.
But since I move in comedy circles, I thought I'll interview some comedians and get like the view from the trenches.
Sure.
And then when I started doing that, that was kind of interesting. So I started recording the interviews. And that became the premise of the podcast.
Okay.
Then when I started doing the podcast, I wanted to add, a little more comedic elements. So every podcast episode, I find a news story where religion is being discussed. And then I just kind of rant about it. So it could be creationism in Florida. It could be comments made about health or the power of prayer. And then I rant about it in each particular episode.
So the concept of it is this is all religious based.
Of religion and pseudoscience, as we say.
Right.
Holistic medicine and
I'm assuming you have some sort of stance going into this, right? So you're did you have a belief? Are you part of a faith or no?
I'm not. My father's Jewish, and I was raised vaguely Jewish.
Vaguely.
Yes.
Jewish. So that means like you lit half the candles, or...
Well, I did light half the candles, but I lit them from ages 1 to 12.
You were lighting all of them at that point. Okay.
And subsequently, I stopped lighting them.
Right.
Which my family stopped going to synagogue when I was about 12.
Okay. So you didn't make a decision. Your family just got lazy with their faith. Is that what happened?
It was actually a little more than that. What happened was when it was time to do my bar mitzvah, as a young Jewish lad might do.
Which is the best part of being Jewish, isn't it? Like you have like DJs and everything. Like you have this whole party. Yeah. That's all I've ever heard of is a bar mitzvah.
And it's all about you. Like you're the star for a day.
Yeah. Like I would love to have those.
Well, I didn't have one. Yeah. Because to do that ceremony, the religious part of it, you have to speak Hebrew to do like the prayers.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you have to take Hebrew lessons.
Sounds like a fair exchange.
And it takes about a year of Hebrew lessons, and you typically have to pay for them. Because you have like a teacher.
Right.
So at that time...
the payoff at the end, though, at those parties, you get a lot of money for those.
You can do, if your family, depends on your family.
Investment.
But investment, though it may be for some, it was not in our family budget for me to take those Hebrew lessons.
Okay.
And the rabbi at the synagogue that we were attending at the time was not willing to let me take the Hebrew lessons unless they were paid for.
Right.
It's not a very charitable attitude.
No, it's not at all. It's supposed to be a religion. I didn't think it was just going to charge you for everything like that.
Right. So my
Catholics
father stopped going to synagogue. My grandfather stopped going to synagogue, and his brother switched to a different synagogue. So it actually caused like a whole schism in the Jaffe family in our local
riff.
Yeah, with the local Jewish community in a way.
They're all pissed about the Jaffes.
I don't think anyone's pissed about it. It was not that deep of a thing, but it. There was an exodus. That's
good.
Thank you.
A book from the Bible.
Don't try that at home, folks. And then from that time, there was not really any particular religion in our house.
Okay.
My mother was Southern Baptist, but she also, I never once in her adult life saw her go to church.
Well, it's because she was from the South. They don't even have Southern Baptist churches around here. That'd be quite
they do have Baptist
quite
churches,
a commute every day.
Yes. But at any rate, I would say both my parents are believers, but they were not particularly religious in terms of organized religion or going to church or that kind of thing.
Right.
And so circle back around to nowadays, I would say what I am is pro-science and pro-evidence.
No.
I'm not actually hostile.
Those are tricky things.
I'm not actually hostile in a way. Like I'm not an angry atheist. People should, life is hard enough as it is.
There's a lot of those.
There's
a lot of angry atheists.
There are some.
Yeah. I myself am an atheist at this point in my life. But like yourself, was brought up with religion. Like my family was very religious. My mother is still very religious.
Right.
So I am not very angry about people doing whatever religion they want to do.
Right.
Mainly, I am just a covert atheist.
Right.
So if you ask me about it, you'll find out an answer. However, if you want to tell me about your religion, I'm not like, what? That's a bunch of horse crap.
I think that what you're describing is the way most atheists are, actually.
Yeah.
Like, most atheists are not marching on Washington. The thing that happens in my case is two things. One is I don't bring up, like you just said, I don't bring up religion. Most of the time in my social circles, someone else brings it up first. But also,
you bring it up. Usually that's the person. They're ready to argue.
Right.
The person bringing it up.
But sometimes in our American and Western culture, there's politicians who bring it up.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not, like, I'm not mad at Mike Pence because he pretends to be so religious.
No, he's not pretending. He's super religious.
Well, I don't know what's inside people's hearts. So
yeah, I do.
I can only see their performances.
I can see directly into them. So I know if it's honest.
There was a survey of Congress, senators and representatives in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Where they were anonymously asked if they believed in God. And in an anonymous
survey,
probably
100% all Jesus believers.
1/3 of them said they were atheist.
1/3.
But when asked to put their name on whether or not they would come out as an atheist, only one.
That's political suicide. No one does that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So therefore, there might be some very sincere religious people, but there might also be some posers.
All right. Well.
And then the point is, I don't even care if they're posers. I care about their policy.
Right. Those are things. That's a smart thing to be into.
So now when someone's religion is become intertwined with their policy, then that's where, if you want to debate them, they're forcing you to
listen to it.
You remember John Kasich?
I do.
He was the previous governor, and he set up a program for community mentors where you could become an official mentor through the state.
Wow.
But in order to, which sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I would like to be a mentor.
Did you know that in his program to become a community mentor, you had to get at least one reference from a religious leader from your community?
No, I didn't know that.
See, that's what I mean.
That seems biased.
That's what I mean about when public policy becomes intertwined with their religion.
Sure.
So,
well, maybe you could have gotten, well, I guess atheists would be anti-religion, but imagine they have some sort of...
There's probably a way to dispute it or circumvent it, but that it even exists. Like, why should I have to circumvent it, especially when there's supposed to be a separation of church and state? I'm not angry at any family member, friend, or politician because they're religious. I can ignore them 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But when it becomes intertwined with their policy, then you have to debate them, and their religion is intertwined.
Right.
So that is where the debate comes in.
Sure.
Not in some kind of out of control yelling match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with you. It shouldn't be part of a policy. So on that, I think we totally agree.
Now, let's do some of these questions.
Okay. So in any case, throughout the course of your Comical Heathen, which I've been to, by the way, so for the audience, I have actually gone to one of your, was it your first show?
You went to the inaugural original first show.
Yeah, it's great. So when this is like super big time, and I'm like, oh man, I remember I was there for the first one.
It's getting better every time. I make changes, I edit, I polish, write new jokes.
Okay. So in any case, here's some questions that either came up through your Facebook that you put up, or they were given to you at one of your shows.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just going to randomly grab one. Here's one from Jeremy, and he was at the first show in Cleveland, which I was at the first show. I know we're both Jewish. How do you relate to your family as an atheist? That's a pretty good question.
Right. So one thing that Jewishness has is a culture. So kind of like a person could celebrate Christmas without being a Christian.
Yeah, I do that.
Or Catholic can go to Mass without being religious, but they do it for their family, or they do it out of tradition.
Right.
But they might not automatically be super religious.
Right.
So Jewish families and culture have a lot of room for that. So
because a lot of people bail out.
No, it's kind of the opposite. It's hard to bail out because it's a culture. It has been commented that Christianity is the easiest religion to leave.
Really?
Yeah. In Jewish culture, it's easy to stop believing. There are many Jewish atheists, I'm sure.
Sure.
But being an atheist doesn't stop you from being Jewish.
Right.
You can still go to Passover and have Hanukkah and go to synagogue and wear a yarmulke.
They don't get mad at you there?
They do not get mad at you while you're participating in cultural activities.
Okay.
Because when you're doing a cultural activity, no one is really
killing calves.
Right.
That's part of it, right? Killing
so if you're lighting candles for Hanukkah, now I don't do any of these in my own household.
Right.
I have not done a Hanukkah.
So you don't have one of those candle?
I do not have a menorah
in
my household. If one appeared or someone gave me one as a gift.
You guys spin dreidels at your home?
I do not have a dreidel.
No dreidels. That's the only reason. That's mainly the reason why I wanted to be Jewish, is for a dreidel. From the South Park song, Dreidel, Dreidel, Dreidel.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's a song outside of South Park.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
But I do love it. And the dance scene's excellent.
Now, I would also just say one other thing, which just came up. Jeremy asked this question at the show. I remember it. And one of the things we talked about at the show was, like you said, you just said, and they don't mind. It is kind of more their problem than it is mine.
Sure.
Like, my relatives and family have to decide how much they care whether or not I'm particularly religious. Now, again, I'm not going around being rude. I don't tell people not to do their holidays. Or there's a Jewish holiday where you go and visit the graves of your ancestors all day and do prayers. I've done that with my father.
Sounds like a blast.
It is
that sounds like a really good time.
It is.
Hanging out where a bunch of dead people
are. My father has asked me to do that with him, and I've gone along with him.
Okay. How'd that go?
Well, I was there to support him, so it went fine.
You got to bring cocktails of this? I mean, how's that?
You don't, because there's a lot of driving involved.
Oh.
Because you got to go to several different, depending on where your family has been laid to rest.
You got to go to all of theirs. Okay, so they're not all grouped in the same cemetery?
In my family, it's not, because we're starting with my father's grandparents.
Is it called the cemetery?
It is.
There's no Jewish name for it?
There might be a Yiddish word. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
If anyone knows the Yiddish word for cemetery,
feel free to call in.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, or donate.
Text. Yeah. If you can find our donate button. I'm on the website of my other podcast.
Probably right next to the call button is the donate button. So I have similar to yourself. When I became an atheist, my entire family is not happy about it.
Okay.
Even my brothers and sisters, they don't believe a lot of things. However, they can't commit to being an atheist either.
Right.
They're still, I don't know, what if there's something, which I feel like a lot of people do.
Sure.
They can't commit to being atheist because they want to keep in their mind. They're like, well, that's why they throw around the word agnostic a lot of times. Right. I feel like an agnostic is the word people use when they're afraid to say that they're
I agree.
An atheist.
I think in the past, the word agnostic meant atheist.
You think so?
No, I know so.
Oh, okay. Well,
sorry, that's okay. Yes, I am the world's most highly educated stand-up comedian.
Writing.
No,
sounds
you
so
do not.
Affirmative.
But what I wanted to say is, if someone asks you the question, do you believe in God? Directly, friend, family, whatever.
Sure.
And your answer is, well, I'm not sure. That's no. Like, let's face it.
Right. You're afraid to say no.
Yes.
You're like, I don't know. I've made it to 30, however old you are, going to all these things. And it's hard to say, I don't believe any of that anymore.
Now, Richard Dawkins, who is a more controversial figure,
super smart,
and super like bulldoggish on being an atheist, like outspoken.
Okay.
But in his book, The God Delusion, he does make the point, which I think is a good point on this question, that it's unfortunate that we only have like two words, like you believe in God or you don't. Because it's really more of a range where people have different feelings.
Right.
And during the course of a person's life, your feelings can change.
Yeah.
So it's actually an interesting way to think about it. Instead of stating it like as a black and white question, think of it as more of,
more of
a lifelong spiritual gray area journey type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. My son says he's atheist, and then we're moving on. But I won't let him say that he's atheist.
Okay.
Because I felt like his decision to be atheist was more so he didn't want to go to church with his grandmother.
Okay.
And he's like, Dad, I don't believe in anyway. I was like, I don't think you've researched this enough to make an actual decision. You just don't want to get up in the morning, which I get.
Yeah.
However, you're still going.
That's a Homer atheist.
Yeah.
There's the episode of The Simpsons where Homer became an atheist just so he wouldn't have to go to church.
Yeah. Okay. That is 100% that. I never saw that episode, but that's exactly what I've decided my child is.
Classic.
Yeah.
In fact, anyone at home who has not seen that episode should stop listening to us immediately and go and watch The Simpsons.
I'm going to go home and watch it because I've just described most of the people that are agnostic or atheist. They're just too lazy to go anymore. All right, so here's another question. This one here is from Marty on Facebook. How many bunnies do you have? It's a weird question for the religious show, but...
Thank you, Marty. It is a weird question, Gaz, but the reason it's not a weird question is because in the podcast, my rabbits are my mascots.
Oh, okay.
So on every episode of the podcast, I talk about them. And then also in a lot of the artwork for the show is the rabbits are featured. Like here's a copy of the Comical Heathen logo.
Oh, I'm looking right at it right now for the radio listening podcast audience. I'm
Well, the link actually, if you follow the link to get to us.
He's not lying. There are 2 bunnies.
There's a third one.
That has been cut off, which seems.
In the proper logo, all 3 bunnies are there. That was just like a photocopy thing.
Right on.
But so we have 2 rabbits. They're called Kelvin with an L and Newton, both famous scientists you might know. Notice
they are. I thought you had another one. Roger Bacon. I thought you had that guy.
We used to have a rabbit called Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, yes.
Sadly Roger Bacon. Away.
Oh, sorry to bring that up.
That's okay.
Roger Bacon is a school in Cincinnati, which my so as you can see, I confuse it. It was a school that my college roommate went. So shout out to Roger Bacon down there in Cincinnati.
Kevin Bacon was named after Roger on American Dad.
Wow, full circle there.
Because there's an episode of American Dad where Roger goes around in disguise as Kevin Bacon.
Oh, all right.
Which my daughter thought was the funniest thing she ever saw.
To be disguised as Kevin Bacon?
And so named our rabbit Kevin Bacon without any reference to the actor. Like only because Roger did it.
I like that because I assumed that it had something to do with Kevin Bacon.
Correct. That is the correct assumption.
Right. So 2 bunnies. 1 passed away, which I sadly just brought up.
Yep.
Hopefully your wife's not at home reliving this story. That'd be horrible. Okay. All right, here is one. This one's coming from Stephen.
Yep, from Columbus.
Stephen, all the way from Columbus. Is the Force a religion? Now, I've heard this before because people will write down the Force, I think, on like some political stuff that you could write down the Force.
So,
when you vote, can you write that down on something you vote? I don't know.
No, in the early 2000s, there was almost like a early internet phenomenon where around the world, people started listing their religion as Jedi.
Okay. All right.
And in recent
Sounds feasible.
In recent years, when the U.S. has done a census, we have not had a religion question. But other countries have a religion question.
They do.
And so, for example, I lived in New Zealand for 6 years. And while I was living in New Zealand, they did a census. So I saw this happen in real time where suddenly like thousands of people put Jedi down as their religion.
And that's where it started to make a dent?
It was happening in other countries as well, but that's where I first noticed it. And the question is, most of those people, that's not really their religion.
Yeah,
it's like a joke.
Yeah, they're trying to be funny.
Right. And
poorly landed joke, by the way.
But it was also meant to be a protest vote. Like, why are you even asking us about religion? That shouldn't be on a census form or government form type of question.
Yeah.
Other countries have had it happen. Famously, it happened in Australia for a couple of their census. And Australia actually has the highest per capita ratio of people who claim Jedi as their religion.
And what is, do you have that number?
It's over 1%. It's over 1%. It's like 1 point something percent.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah. In New Zealand, it was around 1%. And the government, you said like it was a poorly landed joke.
Yeah.
The government found a very official way to say what you just said, which they marked everyone who put Jedi as their religion as answer acknowledged but not counted.
Non-compliant a-holes is what they are.
And another group of people who complained were actual atheists because they would prefer that people just put down atheist because they want to have an accurate count of what.
And they didn't have a spot on there saying for atheists?
Yeah, you could.
Oh.
So.
Why would they be mad?
No. The survey allowed you to pick it. But the fact that so many people put Jedi.
Oh, they were pissed about the Jedi.
Yeah, about the Jedi because
those people probably would have put atheist.
Correct.
Right.
So the atheists got undercounted.
Yeah.
Which is
they're like the Ross Perot vote.
Correct.
Yeah. Screwing up the system.
Right. So this is a funny phenomenon that it's happened in other countries, but Australia and New Zealand were the 2 countries that had like the most.
Yeah,
and it hasn't happened in the US.
Them atheists, man, they are sensitive.
Well, most are not, but
I don't
know. We're locked away in a bunker underneath my office in an undisclosed location, but near me is some of my paperwork from work, and I bet you if I could dig through these papers, I could find.
Just so you know, that shuffling that you hear in the background, that's actual shuffling going on. We don't.
That's not a special effect.
Yeah, we're not high tech enough to where we have. So if you hear the noise, that's a real thing.
We can't afford special effects, actually. So Pew
you guys aren't
in the
hitting
U.S.
the donate button. That's the problem.
I know. If you could hit the donate button, I'd stop shuffling these papers. Something more.
Yeah, something more productive.
So the number of people who list themselves as none. So that's a choice you can pick, like none of the above.
Yeah, not none as in N-U-N.
No. It's okay to date nuns. You just don't want to get into the habit.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, people.
That's
my Vegas material.
Yeah, that's a great one.
P.S. I have never performed comedy in Vegas, but
if you get there,
that joke will be my opener.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I was going to say is the number of people who've picked nuns, that could be atheists, agnostics, or just people who are opting out of the religion survey questions, has doubled. And it's approximately 14%.
14% are now saying
that's the United States.
None.
Yeah, that's a pretty high.
Is that high?
Well, depends how you want to look at it. If you want to say like 80+% are religious, that seems like a lot of religious people.
Yeah, but I feel like that's always been.
That's probably also overreported because there's probably people in that group, like your brothers, who are more agnostic. Right. But if they're forced to pick.
If you're forced to pick, they're putting, just to be sure.
Correct.
Just to be sure, they're putting it on. There is a God out there. So.
Yeah. But there is definitely a statistical increase in the number of atheists in the United States. It's about doubled over a 10-year period.
Gotcha. I would like to see as that continues, because I feel like a lot of like charitable events, whether it be, everyone will hate the Salvation Army, but ultimately they are they're doing charitable things out there.
Right.
I wonder as the census goes higher with atheists, if they start to take more control of some of those donating social services.
That is happening already too.
Is it?
I don't have statistics for, but I assure you there are like organizations that like Doctors Without Borders.
Right.
Cancer
Doctors
Society.
Without Borders, that's an atheist program?
Well, secular.
Okay.
They're not a religious program.
Right.
So UNICEF is a religious program. Salvation Army is a religious program.
Correct.
And some of those programs do good work.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, like to your question, there are non-religious charitable organizations.
Right.
Like the American Cancer Society is not a religious organization, but they do a lot of charitable work and fundraising.
Oh, all right.
So
yeah, we should promote that one.
Yeah, well, I just did.
Oh,
please donate to the American Cancer Society.
And if you've got a little extra change, donate to this program.
Find the donate button.
Right. Christine asks, and it doesn't say where she's from.
That was from the first Cleveland show, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's a friend of ours.
Christine, thank you. Can I tie you to a spitting board and throw knives at you? That sounds sexual.
I want to say I asked my wife, and she said I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Not allowed anymore to
anymore. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So sorry, Christine.
Is it because you had an accident? I mean, what or it became that it was clearly too sexual and she didn't like you out there?
It was turning into a addiction adjacent.
Right.
So we had to cut it off completely.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can see how that could happen.
Sure.
I had a question, and it was more of not so much a criticism. But in your particular act, when I was there was a moment in which you started talking about how people or how religions will explain away bad things happening to people.
Right.
And the way that they did that is if bad things are happening to you, there is some sort of sin that is correlated with that particular thing. And then this is the reason why bad things are happening. It doesn't have to necessarily be directly related to that sin, but it just means, hey, you're out there sinning.
Right.
And guess what? God has figured out a way to punish you.
Right.
And then the one that you tied it to, which was a pretty big one.
Right. Sit down, people.
Yeah.
On some goggles and helmets and stuff.
So was children getting cancer. Obviously, that's horrible. Right.
Indeed. We all agree.
Right. So
if you don't agree that's horrible, please stop listening.
Yeah.
We don't want you in our audience.
Yeah. And coronavirus is really not bothering you if you don't find that horrible. Right. So in any case, I understood what you were trying to do, and you're trying to create some sort of levity to the situation. You're like, hey, what could the children done that was that bad? That cancer is the answer for that.
Right.
And what I found it was extremely difficult to make it funny. Like I was, and as someone that does comedy, I'm pulling for you. I'm like, okay, all right, let's see him turn this one around into something funny. Mm-hmm. Right now, as funny as you try to make it, ultimately all you're hearing is children have cancer.
Right.
So tell me about what's your game plan there?
So first of all, I want to let everyone know I'm not about to do a bit. So I'm not about to go into the routine. But I will. First, I want to report that at the Columbus show, which was the first show I did like outside of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I had friends there, but at least half the audience was just people who showed up. So thank you for coming, Columbus.
Thank you.
And the show went well. I'll give myself a B, and I'm going to turn it into an A. But show went well.
Okay.
I got to that bit.
Yeah.
I said that line.
Yeah.
a chill fell over the room.
Yeah.
I mean, it turned into like
it's
a
a tough
drop.
One. Right. I believe it.
So just to give the context a little bit, I'm talking about creationism. And then there's a portion of talking about creationism where I talk about schools in Florida that are charter schools that are religious. And a survey was done, an expose by some Florida newspapers, showing how much money was being spent, which was over $1 billion on religious charter schools. And that some, not all, but some of those schools were using creationism as and other, let's say, religious ideas as the basis of their curriculum.
Okay.
But focusing on creationism. Okay, in that context,
creation being
people who don't believe in evolution.
They don't believe in evolution, and they're saying that God and throwing some science words in there, I'm sure, when they do it.
Yes.
But they're creating these things.
So I have a whole page of my script where I'm find things that they've said in their textbooks.
Yeah.
And then I mock them.
Okay.
And some of it is funny. Now, I get to this part and I say that in their textbooks, some of the textbooks they use say that God does indeed use illness to punish sinners.
Right.
And so then within a sentence or two of that, I say, I
wonder. Like the coronavirus?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So
now we're getting up to date.
So they would say. So that is where I bring in. So I wonder how these people know which children with cancer are the ones who are being punished by God and which are the ones that just got sick.
Right.
And then in a line or two later, I say this. I do say this. I say, sorry, everyone, just collecting my thoughts there, pregnant pause. But that pause was impregnated by God, so it was a holy pregnancy.
That's
I say something like,
immaculate.
Who are these dickheads who are telling their children that their loving God gave them the sniffles?
Right.
Okay. I wanted to mention that because I intentionally, in those two sentences, went to the extremes.
Yeah, the sniffles
would be like the lowest possible thing you could say.
But like people could probably laugh at that.
But I wanted to do both. And here's my thinking. I'm not saying that it succeeds. Maybe I need to rethink it. But I'll tell you at least my thinking behind it was that if I want to say a sentence that how are these dickheads going to be able to tell the difference between which kids which have fill in the blank because they were sinners and who just got sick? You could put any illness in there. You could say the sniffles. You could say a sore throat. You could say the measles.
Right.
And I just felt like if I don't say the most extreme thing that I can, it's letting them off the hook for their idea. I feel like the more extreme of an illness I mention, the more it shows what dicks they are. That's at least the goal there.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. So you're trying to show that obviously this is a horrible disease. I mean, that's part.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone agrees.
And you were trying to put the religious people
on the
spot, saying, "Hey, explain this one to me. How can these children do it?"
Now, I will say, especially when I saw how it landed in Columbus with this big chill with people who didn't know me. I think the Cleveland shows have been 90% people who know me. Right. Which means I also get a benefit of the doubt from my friends and well-wishers.
Right. Yeah, you get a minute.
This is actual, I'm in the deep end of the pool now. And this chill fell over. And even I was surprised, I have to admit. I wasn't expecting that big of a...
Yeah.
Now, that little rant ends with me saying God's probably going to punish them with an illness for being such dickheads, and they're going to get a rash on their junk. It's going to be the shape of Florida. Audience laughs at all that. Yeah.
Okay, they do laugh.
So at the end of the rant, I do, if you will, win them back. I just made air quotes, but
yeah.
So what I think is, as I consider this moment, I think I've got to lean into the fact that in this whole 1 hour show, I can be serious sometimes. Maybe that's not meant to be a funny bit. That is meant to be oh, wow, this is serious. There are serious implications to what we're talking about here.
Right.
Maybe I got to put my arms around
the seriousness of it,
as opposed to going, oh, that didn't get a laugh. Maybe I need to rewrite it. Maybe I got to say, oh, that caused a chill. How can I turn that chill into a theatrical, meaningful part of the show?
Well, I think that's the concept. That makes more sense to me.
Right.
Because when you're trying to be comedic,
right,
and you are all of a sudden making that particular statement, the comedy's not going to happen.
Oh, the minute before that, by the way, and I mean,
nonstop guffaws.
Yeah, good, because when most of the creationism stuff goes over well, I've been working it for a couple of years. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of act outs. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pointing out the absurdity. Hey, we are running out of time here, Gaz. I'm going to do one or two quick ones.
Okay.
I do want to do this one, but if there's one that you wanted to do as well.
Yeah, we'll get while I'm thinking about it, we'll read this one. It doesn't say who this one's from.
No, this is from the Columbus Show.
Oh, Columbus Show. Okay. What is the worst justification for God's existence you've ever heard? So the worst reason for God to exist you've ever heard.
Right.
No, pretty much the one that is the most consistent is lack of evidence is their proof of why. I mean, because everyone always gives you that one. Like they'll take you up. Oh, well, where did that start from? Oh, well, where did that stuff from? And then when you don't have an answer, because I don't, nor do you, then they're like, aha, think about it.
Right.
God. So
that's a common one. And as someone who teaches logic and philosophy classes at a college in Northeast Ohio, there's 4 or 5 what we call logical fallacies, common logical mistakes.
Yeah.
That I always try to teach my students. And one of them is a phrase which is burden of proof. So if you're in a debate with someone about anything, of course you want to have evidence. That's generally true.
Have you ever argued on Facebook? You don't need evidence, buddy. Yeah, you just say whatever you want.
This is actually why I've stopped arguing on Facebook, but I know exactly the phenomenon you're talking about.
You should do it. It's a lot of fun. Anyone out there knows I love to do it.
But if 2 people, let's say you're in your coffee shop and you're talking to your friend.
Yeah.
And your friend says, I believe in ghosts. And then I say, it's kind of absurd to me. And then now, right at that moment, who has the burden of proof? And the burden of proof belongs to the person
saying that they believe in ghosts.
Well, who's saying the more extraordinary thing.
Okay.
Plainly, there's not easy evidence that ghosts exist.
However, if you're dealing with, let's say there's 5 people in that group, right? 4 of those people just believe ghosts.
Oh, right. Yep.
You would be the most absurd person now.
Socially, you would be the outcast.
Yeah,
but logically,
idiot.
You would still be the person who has the right to ask for proof.
Okay.
Carl Sagan used to say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof.
Ooh, it's very similar to the Marvel quote.
Extraordinary response to
Spider-Man.
Power.
You know what you're
Yeah, of course. So we can apply that to things that are less controversial. Ghosts, psychics, Bigfoot.
Yeah, all things that are real.
But all things which could be real, but if you want to prove them, the burden of proof is on you, Gaz, because they're extraordinary.
Right. Bigfoot, I saw that video when he's walking in the background. So we got that. So within 2 seconds, I've already solved it.
So Bill Nye the Science Guy tells us that one grainy photograph is not
enough
good
proof.
evidence.
Well, he doesn't sound like a real scientist then.
He has science right in his name, so you kind of have to take his word for it.
I don't have to.
So similarly, you are right that sometimes when you're in a coffee shop conversation, Thanksgiving with your friends or family, and you start to say, well, I just don't believe in God. They'll ask you, where's your proof?
Yes.
You actually don't need proof.
Okay.
They are, because they're making the more extraordinary claim. They're saying a supernatural being beyond our perception is guiding our lives somehow. That's an extraordinary claim. So the burden of proof is on them. Now, in the coffee shop conversation, they, of course, will not accept that.
Right.
So you could say, well, logically, you're the one making the extraordinary claim. You need evidence, not me. That is the logic of what's happening in that part of the conversation. I do find, too, and this is kind of was in your little, like a paraphrase of what someone might say, is a little bit of creationism as well. Like, where did the world come from? Where did the universe come from?
That's the answer. Is anytime you get into someone, you're talking about where things come from. And, atheism is, that's my platform. They immediately default, which is why it's my favorite argument is, where we come from. And then you will say something, Big Bang, whatever you're going to use. And they're going to be like, okay, and then where'd that come from?
Right.
And therein lies is the moment in which they feel like they have now won said argument.
Except, of course, and every child who's ever been in a Sunday school class knows that what you say next to them is, oh, so you're saying that God made everything. God made the Big Bang. God made the universe.
Right.
Where did God come from?
Boom.
It's their own argument.
God damn it.
Going right back at them.
Yeah, I gotta use that one.
Yeah, that's like 8-year-olds know that
classic flip-flop.
I know.
Great. Where did he come from?
Yep.
And then the answer is always been.
Right.
So that's what they say.
Well, why doesn't that apply to the universe?
Well, because it can't.
Always been.
It can't. See, nice try.
I'm sure people listening to a podcast want to hear about math, but can I give you a quick, because you are pit boss who knows about the odds around gambling.
Correct. That is correct.
Just use a very simple example for the people listening at home.
Which is all simple math, by the way, so don't get into anything too crazy.
I'm not. Just nothing more crazy
It's just a lot of simple math.
1 6-sided die.
Yeah. Right.
You're shaking it up in your
So
hand.
it's not Dungeons and Dragons we're playing.
We're using the simple game, Monopoly, craps, six-sided die. You have 1 in your hand.
Yes,
You're shaking it up.
Yep.
What are the odds you roll a 1?
Oh, it's going to be 1 out of 6.
Okay, I hope everyone at home followed that.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you've rolled it.
Yes.
It's sitting on the table.
Yep.
It's showing a 1.
There it is.
What are the odds you just rolled a 1?
100%.
That applies to the universe.
Oh, man.
The universe already exists. So no matter how improbable, what are the odds that this universe would just burst into existence? The odds are 1. It's already happened.
It's already, yeah. We definitely are there.
Yes.
Right.
Let me mention one more, and then we'll move towards wrapping up.
Okay.
This question came up in in the Columbus show a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things I also brought up is under the category of creationism, people will talk about just how well the world goes together, like men and women go together, and
or the continents. If you look at all the continents, they do.
So they call that design. The argument from design. The world seems so well designed. There must be a designer.
100%. Right.
The world is like a watch. The physics are like a watch. It moves. And so it's
right. Someone designed a watch.
The watchmaker.
Yeah.
So here's the one problem with that you can use to at least come back in your friendly debate with your friends and family. And that is that the world is not well designed. Because evolution explains our biology and geology explains the earth, it's all chaos and messed up. Right. Our bodies are not well designed.
Yeah, they're evolving and dying off.
Yes, they're poorly designed.
Right.
I mean, eyesight is a miracle. I love being able to see.
Yeah.
But our eyesight is also crappy. We can only see a very narrow range. We can only see certain colors.
Yeah.
Our eyesight fades. Some people are partially or actually blind. So eyesight is actually a wonderful, I'll use the lowercase miracle of nature, a miracle of nature.
Yeah.
But it's also
not the kind that God did.
No, because if God did it, he really fucked it up.
Yeah, he would have done it a lot sooner.
And would have worked a lot better.
You think?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, there's nerve endings that go in front of your retina.
Yep.
Interfering. That would be like if you built a camera and in the camera had cables hanging in front of the lens.
Right.
You would fire that person. So humans and the world are not really that well designed. If they say stop and smell the roses, stop and notice all the flaws.
Right.
And it's not that well designed.
Yeah.
And so I think we're gonna have to wrap it up soon.
All right. Well, thanks for all the donations. I assume that we're probably rich.
We've racked up pod points.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of pod points.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are or how we turn.
We just made some cash,
Absolutely.
Which is good at this time since I have no job.
Gaz, we are broadcasting live.
Yeah.
But I will turn this into an episode of the podcast, and in that I will put the link
yeah.
for the donations.
Okay, so you'll be able to donate if you want to listen to this all over again, which I'm sure. Why wouldn't you?
And well, I think millions of people who listen to it for the first time.
Yeah.
After it's downloaded.
Yeah, and then you guys can all just donate at that point.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for inviting me along.
And I want to thank Gaz for being my co-host. Jeff Geddert for he's my co-producer. He helps with technical issues. And my friend Mark Bell is an organist whose music is the usual theme music of the show. The Podbean platform doesn't allow me to use my own theme music. That's why you heard that goofy techno music at the beginning. I'm going to play 10 seconds of techno music at the end, so it feels like the show has ended.
That's my favorite kind.
Absolutely. And I'm going to thank everybody who's been coming to the live shows and who's listening either to the live broadcast or to this podcast episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool.
Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. You hear that, Gaz?
Yeah, that is nice music.
There you go.
People are
That's
jamming
happening.
out. People are probably like 30 people just jamming out to that.